to be, what your guys' experience are like with girls, and how they react to how you dress. Because at a certain point, like my initial comment was, you start to attract people that kind of get it or understand it, or even find what you wear attractive. Because I think that as men, we've been taught to be as attractive as possible, which means that some guys are as basic as possible in order to get as much respect, friends, tang, money, whatever you want to call it. But I think that especially I think at least for me, I would rather be with someone who likes me or who kind of gets it, right? Because I don't want to have to be explaining to someone about my style. So I would say that while in a wider environment, my outfits may not be as attractive to people. There are plenty of times where I've shared old pictures of myself that girls prefer, even if it's a bad fit. Even if I have better Chelsea boots now, me wearing like Banana Republic Chelseas with fucking like baggy ass jeans and a ill-fitting Aloha shirt, that gets more than like me wearing like my all black my black sawtooth or whatever. Even though I would argue that now I'm a better representation of of what I want out of SLP as opposed to before. But whenever those people comment, because they don't get that, I think that that's a good thing, because I would rather be with someone who does get it, which is why the people I talk to now are kind of like, oh, I can see it. Like, you're wearing that suit, but you're not corporate about it. You still look good, but you're not trussed up. And the fact that they understand that is like, okay, I'm still doing something right because I'm attracting the people that I should be attracting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think I've especially growing out of that fact, I think it's a kind of a naive or even like a noob mentality to be like, okay, I'm dressing up now. Where are the ladies? I think at a certain point, it's like, okay,
where the white women at?
I'm okay. I think I'm fine. I'm getting the people who I want, and I'm weeding at the people who I may not, may not jive with, because I think that, especially for myself, menswear has led to a lot of other hobbies. I wouldn't have gotten into photography, or writing, or even heck, my entire career is built on like marketing and everything, right? I feel like all those things that kind of define who I am now stem from menswear. And even though that's a big grasping at straws thing, if I was like a regular dude, I don't think I would have had this kind of same confidence over myself, which again, if someone can see that as an extension of my style, then they get it, as opposed to like a girl who may think, oh, Ethan's just trying to look like some dapper 40s guy. That person doesn't get it, and I would rather not associate with them.
Yeah, this is an idea we've talked about before, but yes, it's the idea of dressing for yourself as opposed to dressing with an intent, with a desire to make a point, or to as a means to an end. It shouldn't be a means to an end. As soon as it becomes one, you're almost dooming yourself to failure.
Right.
You have to be you. You really have to. You really have to be you.
And
if you find it's not you, then leave.
At the end of the day, you have to live with yourself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
because you're alone.
So, sometimes I'll be going out, to a bar, and I'll be like, I could wear like what I normally wear, or I could wear like a white t-shirt, and I'd probably, be better looking to 99% of people in a white t-shirt. But, I don't wear white t-shirts every day. So, those are not going to be the right people. Yeah, I go shirtless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I walk around naked normally.
I don't know what that.
I got to get to Connecticut.
I mean, that's kind of the same thing too. Again, I talked about this back on one of the first streams, but whenever I used to go on Tinder dates, if I knew it was coming up, I would change into like a plain t-shirt, plain jeans, and maybe Chelsea boots or like white sneakers, and then I'd wear like a leather jacket, short coat on top. And at a certain point, it felt like that was a costume, right? Like that's date Ethan. Nice to meet me, right?
Swinging the other direction.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, if I
you're like cosplaying as yourself,
right? And especially if they found out what I did during the date, like, oh, that I'm super into menswear. I'm a writer. I photograph other menswear guys to go to trunk shows in my free time. That becomes like, whoa, wait, where did this guy come from, right? So it's like I'm not being.
Then she goes to the bathroom for like 2 hours.
It's disingenuous to do that.
You're starting off the relationship with a lie.
You're never supposed to do that.
Your name's not even Ethan.
Yeah,
it's always one truth and then the lie.
Yeah, so now it's kind of like, I think that it's better that I can, if I'm wearing that to work, I'll just wear what I'm wearing, Like, I mean, I'm not gonna wear a fucking fedora because I'm smarter than that. But if I happen to be wearing like a cord suit or a tweed jacket, why not? Especially if this is more of just me, Ethan dating practices. But if you're just gonna get boba, like that's fine. Like unless you're gonna fucking go to the beach like in the evening or whatever, again, like Young Chomsky said, have some context when you're dressing up. But YC, I know you go on some dates. Why don't you tell us what
he's
how do women
game? Yes.
How do women approach you or approach how you dress, and do you change how you dress for dates?
Well, so I'm right now seeing somebody that I've been seeing for a little while who's really nice, but as some of you know, I'm getting ready to move across the country soon. So like when we met, this was kind of acknowledged to be a short-term thing. But I guess so. We met on Hinge, and actually,
deleted, right?
I commented on her. She was wearing like this cool, like vintage-looking sweater. And so I was like, oh, I like that sweater. She said, thanks, it's a vintage Pendleton. And I was like, I have some vintage Pendleton sweaters. So our conversation started that way.
Okay. And, right off the bat with a razor
Pendleton. So I haven't thought about that in a minute, but that is how we connected. It was over, and I wouldn't have known about, I wouldn't have known to like say that or have that conversation, 6 years ago before I was like pretty into, and I wasn't lying. I do have a couple of vintage Pendleton pieces that tend to get compliments when I wear them because they're like cool patterns. But also on my Hinge, like one of my answers says something about, it's like, what is your goal in life? And I list a bunch of things how I want to like democratize the workplace, and it's a bunch of like very lofty political ideals. And then it says, and wear dope fits. And I get a lot of messages on there saying like, well, you certainly are wearing dope fits, because that's kind of an easy thing to say, but it's a nice compliment. So this is a long-winded way of saying, I feel like the response has been very positive, but I think, again, all of these questions are so dependent on context and situation, right? Like even when we're talking about what's more normal, we can certainly generalize and say, well, it's definitely less common for men to wear ties these days than they used to, right? But it really, really depends on your environment, your location, your age, and the situation. There are
certain things on the fringe that we can single out, right? I mean, beyond ties, let's say fedoras. What's the context where fedoras are at all considered to be normal?
Well, sure. I mean, again, it depends. Like if you're going to some kind of like speakeasy themed kind of club, again, I wouldn't say it's like normal in terms of like your everyday wear. For sure, we can generalize like that. But I mean, it comes back to me. I think the ultimate kind of, again, it's you're showing your social aptitude, right? So the ability to kind of dress maybe one step better than your surroundings, but only one step. That takes skill. And it's not the guy who can only wear a suit or who only dresses in 30s stuff doesn't get that. He's only got one mode. But if you have some skill and some understanding and some like intuition, you can figure out what's appropriate and still how to look like yourself within that milieu. And that takes a lot more subtlety. And I think that is what's attractive, not just how good your suit looks in a vacuum, because that's not how we live.
No.
Right. I mean,
so that's my spiel.
You should wait to get the fedora.
Let's get some amen.
Once you have the girlfriend, then you can start wearing the fedora, because then there's a lot.
At what point in the relationship can you bring out the fedora?
I would say once you're married, because then it's a much harder ordeal to get it out of bed.
Right. Lawyers involved.
Also, the other obviously key takeaway from young Chomsky's soapbox spiel is, lads, find yourself a girl who's aware of the Pendleton woolen mills. That's the main key to success in the relationship.
I want a girl who can tell me the difference between worsted and
the other thing. I'm gonna have a bumper sticker that says, "Tell me about Pendleton."
Tell me about your Pendleton.
Tell me.
Ask me about my Pendleton.
No, don't ask me. Tell me.
Tell me.
You have to tell me if you tell me about it.
Tell me about my Pendleton.
Yeah. I want to see how much.
But
are we diving into biggest turn-ons in terms of?
No, let's do turn-offs. Biggest turn-offs.
John, you've got some experience.
What?
He's got
do you notice? What about you? Like, do you find do girls that you date or see, do they ever say like, hey, I would really like that you wear a plain t-shirt over this totally dope sack jacket that you've got on that you've made yourself? They actually say that to you?
I'm sure they would rather him not wear
it. Preferred when I wore normal stuff.
Oh no!
They did not support the menswear hobby.
Oh my god!
I mean, honestly, the way that I dress now is like it's sort of like, I guess, like Japanese Ivy. And the reason why I think I gravitate toward that is because it's kind of a way of making tailoring like look
more slouchy,
normal,
right?
Yeah. And blend in with like normal people clothes.
Right.
But, no girls really like my style. Although, like recently, what I've been posting fit pics like every day, every other day, I have been getting more comments from girls that I didn't really talk to that much who like my stuff. So I guess
who knows your biceps?
I don't know what that
of the menswear as being a filter. Hopefully filtering out people that are, I don't know, you're not going to get along with as well.
No, I was gonna say, like my previous ex-girlfriend, we ended things on good terms. But she did say that she
sounds like someone who ended things on bad terms.
when we caught up, she did say that she always felt kind of intimidated by how I dressed, which is again, not my. I don't think that we ever intend that, but I think it just again, the context of wearing a sport coat, wearing a tie has this stuff you can't really shake unless you can kind of educate them, or unless they just kind of get it. But if they don't get what you're trying to do, it can always feel like you're outdressing them, even if
they
that's
must
not
be
your
educated.
Yeah.
Women are
what you really want to do is mansplain.
Please don't clip that.
Mansplain menswear, right? Honey, it's called sprezzatura. Let me just. You see how my tie is being tucked in?
It
means I'm casual, baby.
We were hanging out with a friend of a friend once, and we were about to take a bunch of pics. And she was like, "Oh, Spencer, your tie's messed up." And I was like, "No, don't fix it. It's on purpose."
It's supposed to look like it's not on purpose.
Yeah, it's
right.
That's funny thing though, because I think one time I did tell Spencer, "Hey, you missed a button on your OCBD." You're like, "I know," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I thought that was I fell into my own fucking trap.
Of your
Lowest. Okay, my thing is I don't fuck with that look, so I mean that's just me.
Okay.
In my sophomore year,
I think Hallway Ninja should say something, but I don't think she's gonna say anything.
Which look do you not? Are you talking about the unbuttoned collar, or what do you not?
Yeah, the one OCBD collar. I don't.
Oh, only one is a little much. I am into the unbuttoned.
It's weird. I can't.
Yeah, I unbutton my button downs.
I can't do both. I have two shirts where I sometimes do the one button.
Wow.
I can't do two because I think it was like just working at J. Crew and seeing all the guys who would immediately unbutton both buttons on our shirts because they're not used to button down collars. It's just like ruin that look for me.
To me, it's
to the golden mean fallacy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's like it's gonna look better on like a good OCBD versus a J. Crew OCBD, which are very difficult to make good.
Right.
I haven't done both buttons.
Yeah, the unbuttoned looks great on the Brooks Brothers collar, but it does not on a short collar.
Well, see, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that when you leave the points unbuttoned, it just looks like a spear point, and then for me, it's like, why don't I just fucking wear my spear point collar if I'm gonna do that? Look.
You just don't get it. You just don't get it.
I know. I get it. I get that you're subverting the button-down collar. I get it.
I thought this was Street X Sprezza, and yet you forget the Sprezza.
Yeah.
Also the street.
Oxford shirt.
The street.
Yeah. There's no street and there's no Sprezza.
It's just X.com.
I have a light blue Oxford shirt where if I wear a tie with it, but I leave the buttons unbuttoned, the tie rides up my neck and it makes the collar like fold up and it looks weird. So I just button it.
And there you have it. That's our stance on button-down collars.
But
Before anyone asks
But
us again.
Is this going to be a highlight for the relationship?
Oh,
maybe,
stream?
I guess so.
This is why everyone tuned in.
What I was gonna say too. Yeah, what's up?
Yep.
I used to like show my most recent ex like photos of shit of you wearing shit, and I'd be like, "Oh, yo, I think I'm gonna get
let's hear this.
Like, this is so sick," and she'd be like, I don't know.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
You can add that one to the list of girls.
Yeah, I'm used as the mitigating factor of don't dress like that, man. You know,
I'm always showing Ethan's pics to girls that I'm hanging out with.
Yeah.
He's only showing to take Ethan's pics to girls to make himself look better. That's what he's doing.
I'm always
comparison,
showing girls pics of Ethan, and I say, if you ever see this man, kill him on sight. Don't ask questions.
Yeah, what are these days?
Don't believe his lies.
Don't believe his lies.
But, you know,
show a pic of Ethan and said like, well, it could have been. I could have been this. Could have been worse.
Well, you know what's funny is that our friend Doug, whose girlfriend Sadie, a great stylish girl, when they first started dating, Doug said that he would show Sadie pictures of me, like, oh, look at Ethan, like, look at this cool fit, like wearing a sport coat or whatever, and she also liked it. But it's always like at the time, like, you know, a couple of years ago, it was always like, okay, guys are showing their girlfriends pictures of me, and the girlfriends like it. But where's the single ladies that are just looking at pictures of me unprompted and be like, I want some of that D.
Always the bridesmaids.
Yeah.
Always.
That's the problem. Too much.
But I think, you know, in terms of myself too, I think that, you know, I wish, I mean, one of these days we gotta get Fran up here just to kind of like call me my bullshit. And Fran's my first ever ex-girlfriend. But I think that when I was
it's gonna be like that, like fucking like Andy Kaufman like thing where he interviewed his ex-girlfriend.
But I think Fran would probably say now that, you know, my approach was a lot different. Like, I mean, I told Spencer, like, I was kind of in this middle ground of like influencer, wannabe, #Menswear, but also vintage kind of thing. And it wasn't the same kind of like, yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's a kind of a different vibe. And, you know, I don't think that guy was as attractive as I am now, not just in terms of the clothing, but in terms of, you know, the personality and the confidence, because I think back then I wanted to prove that, oh, I am a well-dressed dude and look, I got a girlfriend. But now it's like, well, if you're into it, you'll be into it.
Well, it's the idea of being demonstrative as opposed to being natural.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Because it goes back to that again.
Show don't tell.
Right.
Yeah, it's also wanting a relationship for the wrong reasons as well. You're like, you know, oh, I'm dressing because that's what I want to have a girlfriend. I want a girlfriend. You know.
One concept I'd like to sort of ponder, if I may, is
no.
I have to stop being British. It's really, I'm being roasted by Jason here.
Yeah.
Stop drinking.
I got permission. I should just say, fuck you guys. I'm speaking now, and you're gonna listen to this whether you like it or not.
There you go.
Something's going on.
Here we go.
From 6 to midnight.
New year, new
it's
you.
Red Bull talking.
Oh fuck! I love Red Bull.
It gives all this wings.
Yeah. No, I had the wings already. It just made them, you know.
Gives them white socks.
There you go.
Black socks, boy. Black socks. Well, fashion is a cycle. It cycles back between slim. The preference for slim fits and the preference for wide fits. We have been in a slim period, and I think as the years go by, we'll be entering a period. As the years go by, trousers will get wider and wider, and risers will get higher and higher. I think it's only natural. When that happens, though, as we're still around in this world, hopefully, and still on the market, do you think that'll have an impact on our luck, on our effects in the dating world? Do you think?
I think it'll slowly.
Sorry,
keep going.
Because now we're in a period where a lot of the stuff we like than to even fit.
It's just if we lived in a time where the stuff that we were into was closer to mainstream, that's what you're talking about?
Yes, I'm forming this argument. I'm forming this argument as I go, so bear with me here. But it's the idea of circumstances are changing, which will also have an impact on because the topic is the ability of someone who enjoys tailoring to be successful in the dating world.
I don't think that's not the question, because it's not like, can that happen? I think it's
we're discussing.
Yeah, does it make it?
We're discussing. Yeah, we're discussing to make it easier. Does it make it harder? And I think we all think it's harder. But do you think the world tastes in fashion are changing in a way that will benefit people like us? I mean, we're not going to take it away completely, but it might be a half step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's just not going to matter. There's so much choice.
Well,
now,
I do think that on that note,
because maybe 30 years down the line, in a world where everyone's wearing,
I don't want to say
10 years.
I don't want to
make it 30 years.
No, I mean, it's like, well, okay, let's. I don't know. I feel like the passage of time makes this.
Time has passed.
I mean, it's like it makes this a little bit more complicated. Because now I'm overthinking it, because I'm like, what the hell am I going to be doing in 30 years? Freaking out now.
I hope I'm
be alive.
Yeah.
We're going to fight in the climate wars. That's what's going to happen.
The world's going to end before that.
Military. I mean, I think though, like, if several decades from now everybody here is dressing like exactly the same way, and it's like, oh well, society has finally come around, and now what we like is popular. Like, I don't think that's even a positive thing to think about, right? I mean, because it's kind of a cliche that we've probably all seen. Is the guy who, like an older guy who still dresses now the way he did in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And, there's some cool things about 70s attire. Shout out to Ethan's article about 70s attire. But, like, the idea that fashion is cyclical, all this, like you point out, and this, again, comes back to my point about kind of matching your environment, or not matching it, but adjusting to it. So, to me, it's like how we talk about the idea of timeless fashion is a myth, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I've seen Dye Workwear write about this, I think, very well. People get this idea that, like, if you just get the perfect suit, it will never go out of fashion. But actually, suits have, of course, changed a lot.
That wasn't really my point, though. And I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with.
Well, I guess. I'll just I guess my thing that I was going to add on is that I do agree that it's kind of swinging back into what we like, but I will say that, I don't want to say that the way we dress is the right way to do classic menswear if you want to be
cool. I didn't say that.
I don't want to say that. But I will say that because I wear beanies and white socks with loafers and Vans with tailoring and bucket hats, that gives me a common ground with the, maybe the indier people that I tend to attract. Just like with Young Chomsky, again, you may not be able to kind of connect over Pendletons, but, something I find a commonality is like, okay, me and these people both kind of like wide fits. We both like wearing light wash jeans, vintage Levi's, cuffed up with white socks and maybe a chunky shoe. Could be a pair of boot, could be a Doc Marten, whatever. But we're, as I continue my dating experience, the more I improve my style or kind of get what I want out of it, there are commonalities there. And I think that, because these things are kind of coming back, the wide fits, slouchy, maybe even Japanese influence, it does make the way I dress to be more accepted by the people I'm trying to attract. Again, it might not be everybody, like ABGs or people who, dress entirely different. I'm not gonna attract like a tech wear girl, but if she happens to be wearing like a fun, a baggy Oxford shirt tucked into jeans, with loafers, I feel like, oh, well, I do that too. There's a lot of commonality there. And, that could be due to time. That could just be me improving my style. Could be the universe, just me matching up with people who naturally get it, and we continue talking. So right. I think that answers what you were trying to say, right? Right, I'll just
no,
I guess
not really. I just can't. It's become clear to me that I haven't really explained myself well, but I just don't know.
Well,
it's going to be agonizing.
What are we missing? What are we missing?
Well, yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be agonizing though, and I don't want to just annoy all the listeners here by just trying to work through my arguments in real time.
Why don't you think about it? And Kiyoshi, what about you? Like, what's your dating? Like, what have you seen from how girls or whoever respond to how you dress?
I think probably the most successful thing. Well, let me just say the least successful thing is to be like, and I found this out unfortunately very quick.
Okay,
not great results, right? So like, it was like, I'm super into like dressing up now. So doesn't matter what the context is of what we're doing or the time of day or, whether it's first time, like third time, it's like, why am like looking back, I cringe at myself for like throwing on like a navy blazer with gray dress pants and like a necktie and a pockets where I'm
and
like,
you're at a
Wendy's.
Wendy's.
What was I doing? Sir, this is a Wendy's. Why are you wearing
and you're in the drive-through. You're not even in.
Yes, just shit like that. So it's like obviously, I think you have to be you, but there shouldn't only be one version of you. Right. I think is maybe a better way to put it when it comes to your wardrobe. Okay. Like there should be a version of you that is more relaxed. Let's say very very casual, right? And there should be a version of you that goes all the way up to maybe like wearing a suit or a tuxedo or something, right? For something that's a very special occasion where the event or the activity you're doing calls for that sort of style of dress. And I think probably one of the things I've learned is over time is just this concept of, I guess this goes back to environment, but the way I would put it is learning to read a room. Like, what is it that everyone else will be doing there? And how can you not be the person who's, not underdressed, but also not terribly overdressed and just being kind of the weirdo, unless like that's your whole shtick is to be the person total fucking weirdo.
It seems like this argument is
some people they thrive and live on that. So that's not me.
I'm definitely overdressed most of the time.
It seems like this argument is more one of, and it's right, but it seems to be more one of social fluency as opposed to tailored clothing.
I mean, that's what dating is.
I think a truly stylish,
but it's not necessarily unique.
It's just like I have one look. Like you have
a
variety of looks for each mode or place.
Yeah, but I get
going. So like I think a lot of people just stop at the suit. Yeah. So
no, you're absolutely
don't stop
right.
at the suit.
Yeah.
You're
absolutely right. But I just fear it's a bit beyond the scope of discussing the effects of tailored clothing. It's more social.
And it definitely is. It definitely is. This is about the dating. I mean, we could talk about like how the world views menswear. I mean, even how what it's like to hang out with friends who aren't into menswear. That applies into that too.
Yeah, because I mean,
is
the discussion supposed to be about specifically wearing tailored clothing? Because I don't wear tailored clothing that much. So,
and even for me, like I don't wear a tie every day.
I don't think this discussion was ever specifically about wearing tailored clothing. It was just.
But that's sort of the stereotype.
It was about clothing.
It is, but
that's the context I took it, right? Like, but I would say like, the lesson learned is like, you want to be menswear guy. You don't want to be like menswear guy 24/7 every time someone sees you. Just about dating or not, it's like it's weird.
The thing
I will say. Go ahead.
The thing about dressing up is that it makes you stand out, but not necessarily in a good way.
Oh, 100%. Agreed. And I think, again, it's kind of like what you do with that power, right? Or maybe not the power, but what you do with the attention, right? Because if you're trying to do it and dictate people like, a certain person that we talk about who wears top hats to strip clubs, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah.
But there's also other people out there, like we look at the guys from Menswear, or just even us, where we might be overdressed for the situation, probably overdressed for getting a boba date, but we're not the guy who is trying to impose our views, right? We're not trying to make everyone feel like, oh, you should be dressing on a level. It's more like, this is what I chose to wear today, and this is just me living life.
Right.
And in terms of dating, I think that's what it is. But unfortunately, again, like we said, like when you talk about menswear, of course, ties and tailored clothing is going to come up because someone does refer to me to her friends as the tie guy to differentiate myself from the other people that they talk to, which is totally fine. But I don't wear ties all the time, but
sounds like
I don't blame them.
You wear them enough.
I wear them enough. Yeah, exactly. Like and I don't. I mean, that's what it is because I enjoy wearing ties, and if that's what it is, that's what it's going to be. And before I forget, Jason, I know. So you've had a girlfriend for 7 years. I want to know if the way you dressed, because you were into menswear for a while too, did that have an effect on your girlfriend? When you guys were dating, and how does she view it? Now I'm gonna pee while you talk. But I can hear you. Don't worry. Don't worry. I can hear it.
Your commentary is not
so there's,
Ethan
as
really
with
wants
everyone,
us to know that he can hear us while he pees.
Yeah, as with everyone, it was sort of a journey, right? And so, as she said the other day, this is this iteration of it, which I would consider to be the kind of like the where I'm at is where I've always wanted to be in terms of the menswear. Just I'd never had the resources or the knowledge to get there. My whole punk thing, and so she likes this a lot. But I've also, I have to, obviously I live in New York City, and so there's a lot, this is like the center of fashion, right? And so my reactions and my experiences with, girls and this, it's very different because, I'm surrounded by people who went to fashion school, who are into fashion, not in an influencer way where they're just cool with whatever trend is. These people know and like work in fashion. I have friends that work for Ralph Lauren, not like in the stores, but like work for him at corporate. I have friends that are, buyers and wholesalers. And so, they have an understanding of what the way I dress in a real sense, and not just, I'm a guy, wearing a suit, or I'm a guy wearing a shirt and tie. It's like they understand, they know the brands that I'm wearing, or they know what I'm trying to do with my own thing. So like, which I'm sure is different than in Los Angeles. In LA, it's such a huge influencer culture there that it's tough to get the, I'm surrounded by what I would say like real, genuine fashion people, and not just people who are, into Instagram fashion,
Elevated fashion versus, yeah.
Right, I these are, people are, these are people who are really designing,
creating. Los Angeles episode.
Well,
anti-what?
Maybe it should be.
Okay. We're going through tough times right now, man. Give
so like,
slack.
when I hang out with like other girls, because a lot of my friends are girls. I've just who I've always been friends with, because guys are awful, men are the worst.
That's right.
Too much.
So
yeah.
So a lot of my gal pals are like they're super into what I do and how I dress, because it's it's funny is like here men in New York City can be very influencer, they can be very Zara suit, but whereas like women in New York City are like the opposite, they're like anti-fast fashion and wearing real clothes. And so to see me as a man wearing like real clothes that I either had a hand in designing, or I made, or I bought for a store or something, there's definitely a greater appreciation, even if they don't like the the whole suit thing. Like if I'm wearing a suit, maybe they don't like that I'm wearing a suit to a bar or something, but they still appreciate that that's a real garment compared to the garbage bag that a lot of other guys will get from H&M.
I think
it's a kind of a cultural difference between the two coasts.
Oh, well, I would say that in LA does have a lot of fashion stuff. I mean, it does tend to go influencer a couple of times. But on your point about how women tend to embrace sustainable, more interesting fashion more better than guys, I think that's when guys start to get into that, they don't see that that classic menswear can be an avenue to that as well.
Right.
I mean, we could talk about, we were talking about this with Young Chomsky, we're about, like the suits, artisan made stuff, but also, other cool stuff like, 18 East, upcycling, or other brands like that, Universal Works, all that kind of stuff. There are avenues to get to classic menswear that are just as interesting and just as, conscious and sustainable. But of course, it's not always the most attractive route for some people. Some people just kind of lack that kind of knowledge or the good take, because most suits today that we see aren't worn by us or people we know. It's usually by influencers, which are
and
often
that's
bad
a huge.
suits. So that kind
which always
West Coast boys.
Yes.
West Coast guys, I'm a bit curious. in your environment, is there? I'm wondering if there's less of an understanding and appreciation for vintage clothing, perhaps, or at least vintage styles than there might be here.
Less? No, I think
more.
it's way more.
No, but among quote unquote the mainstream people who aren't particularly into fashion.
I think.
Do you see a fair share of like high-waisted trousers, for example?
Mainstream fashion people in Los Angeles still have an appreciation for vintage clothing, and a lot of people in LA especially incorporate it into their daily stuff. Normally, it's not like stuff that we get at like Rose Bowl or whatever, but like a lot of cool hip young people in Los Angeles love going to thrift stores. There's a lot of boutique vintage places.
Yeah, I would even argue that the influencer look is on its way. It's close to being on its way out. Not completely, but like you're seeing less of it, because you go to like Melrose Trading Post or whatever. You'll see a lot more like vintage Levi's, vintage slip dresses. Again, maybe not like a 60s prep girl, but more like 80s, 90s kind of stuff happening that has a lot of the same ideas. Rugby shirts, polo shirts that they may be cropped to make crop tops. That's still that's still cool. You do see it. You do see it.
Right. So I was mistaken there.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of like thrifting and girls, I feel like there are a lot of girls, at least where I am, thrifting. Sort of,
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
Like lots.
But I mean, what I was to be more specific, what I was thinking about is like you see a lot of people ladies these days going around in high-waisted trousers. It's not uncommon anymore.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that's true for all of us, or there's an East Coast, West Coast difference.
It's funny because on TikTok there is a trend of girls rocking low-rise jeans, and I'm very sad because I don't want to see it come back.
Right.
That's just fat shaming.
Yeah.
And if I could springboard off this and maybe try and better rephrase what I was trying to get at earlier, do you think we're entering into a period that is more favorable to people like us and the fits we like?
I think we're entering into a period.
I think so.
It's not going to. I'm not saying it's going to be a panacea. It's not going to solve all our bloody problems, and we're going to be suddenly the coolest kids on the block and then be drowning.
I mean that has to do with.
I'm always drowned as well.
Yeah, but you're the exception to the rule, Jason.
Right.
You're an exceptional human being with exceptionally white Crocs.
Thank you.
You're in a league of your own.
Really means a lot. Women love the Crocs, by the way.
Yes, tomorrow.
I could imagine.
Yeah,
women love the Crocs, especially with a suit. I got a lot of compliments the other day.
Right, but yeah, leaving deities like yourself. Besides, Jason, are we entering into a period that will be generally more favorable to us? I'm not saying we're going to get any miracles here, but just more favorable.
Well,
the fits we like are getting more mainstream, basically. And if we decided that a lot of the lack of attraction towards tailored clothing is just a matter of it being not particularly mainstream. On that basis, are we entering more favorable calmer waters?
I think as time goes on, like the reaction to different styles is definitely a lot more open, but no matter what, like there will always be an audience who enjoys what we wear, enjoys a houndstooth sport coat with gray flannels and a collar bar, or enjoys an all black outfit.
You mean that audience will perpetually be limited in scope?
But I think we're getting off base here. I think.
Yeah.
Because now we're just talking about if people are gonna like high-waisted trousers more.
The answer is no.
Well,
so
it makes everything look bigger. You know what I'm saying?
That's one thing that I think girls do appreciate when they see that you're wearing high-waisted pants, or you say that you're wearing high-waisted pants, or like crop jackets. They're like, "Oh yeah, I like that shit," because they wear it and other guys don't. And they sort of get that it's more flattering in general, and whatever.
And I think
that's true. A hallway ninja, you tell me.
I think a good thing to also think about is that, while sure, we're wearing the more classic stuff, we all have our own sort of takes on that. What really is coming across to people is the confidence we have in wearing that.
Yep.
If we're in like an oversized, say it's always gonna look bad, and people aren't gonna like if you're wearing like your dad's suit that's a size too big, and it's like, well, I'm wearing a suit then you're an incel, but it's the confidence, like I said, it's the confidence that I have, walking, leaving the store that I work for in a pair of white Crocs, but still in the suit I was wearing, and walking down the street to a bar or to the train. It's that kind of confidence that people, that is gonna, while they may not like, say, they may not like the pinstripe suit that I was wearing because it's kind of bankery, but of course I do it differently. But it's but it's like they still like that I had the confidence to just wear it, and the idea that I didn't care. That
I'm going to call back to one of the first things I brought up with young Chomsky, though, is that it's culture dependence. That the value you assign to something like that. Yes, I can certainly see it being valuable in the Western society where we live, but in Eastern societies, I feel like something like that is not only not a benefit, it might actually be seen as quite abhorrent. As you are.
Wait, which part are you talking about?
Not being the norm. The fact that you decided you wanted to be special is very galling and quite unattractive as a result.
To me, about what he said is the confidence part, because like to me, I can relate this to getting really into working out, and obviously there's the primary benefits of your physical health and your physical appearance, but then also a lot of people find like you start becoming more capable and you develop this confidence from it. And then like I also know guys who are not at all quote unquote in shape, but who are very charismatic and get a lot of attention from women, whereas like I the attention I get is much different now than it was before I was really into working out. And I think part of that is just the confidence that it helped me develop. Maybe there were other ways I could have developed that besides getting really into like lifting and going to the gym, but that was the kind of
agreed.
That was one of the pathways for me, and so is clothing. And so it's like people pick up on that if you feel good about yourself, and that is generally
that's really
attractive.
That is very funny
quite universal.
Because a guy that I kind of wanted to be on the stream, Adam, is not here because he currently is doing something else. But
something more important.
But one of the things he did say was at the beginning of quarantine, he started to like, okay, I'm gonna take Ethan's advice. Early on, he started to we went to like one of the few Rose Bowls before everything got shut down. He bought like a cool corduroy short jacket, got a chore coat, got a jungle jacket, and it kind of started his whole journey of buying, of getting into menswear. And even though he's doing more of like a rugged Ivy, more along the lines of like of Chuck, again, great dresser. I wish he was on the stream and talk about him and his girlfriend. But I started taking more pictures of him just because he's interesting. I like taking pictures of interesting people, and it worked. He has more confidence now to kind of exude his personality, maybe taking care of himself a little bit. And as a result, girls are kind of into it. I mean, girls were into him, before, even if he was like a regular, he dressed like an editor, right? Like a hoodie and like shorts or whatever. But now he's an editor who happens to be like wearing high-waisted jeans, white socks, and has like a sense of style, that kind of, he has an intent behind it, he's not doing it to be attractive, but he's got something extra, and that's what people kind of see.
That's the key. You don't want to do it to be something else. You do it to be yourself, to have have that form of expression. It's
right.
It's the same way I feel about when I started getting like tattoos. I was like, it's such a true form of expression, and I definitely exude. I feel cooler myself about it, and I can, when I see it, like when I see him on my hands, or I see it like peeking out of my jacket, I'm like, oh, this guy's cool. But I mean, it's also helped me,
I think this is maybe the moment I find as soon as.
Oh, you should.
I've been thinking about it for like a year.
Now we're gonna say, hey, do girls, does having a tattoo get you more tang? Is that what the next stream is gonna be?
It definitely does.
Yeah, it does.
Because my girlfriend Tamara has been super into it. And I told you guys, I think I told you guys the other day, I had a conversation in Starbucks over like my tattoos, over Star Wars tattoos. It was Starbucks like 10 minutes talking to the barista about my Star Wars tattoos.
Were you holding up the line?
No, there was no.
No, he was making sure that he was holding up the line.
Yeah. But it was like, it's just, the same thing can happen with like your clothing and with like, whether it be classic menswear or whatnot, as long as you present yourself in a way that says, I'm open to, comments or questions,
I'm open to comments and questions.
Well, like, I don't dress the same way that like the store I work for. I don't dress the same way that customer dresses, but I also don't like, and I don't dress down to that customer. I dress the same way I want to dress. There's no dress code. And if there was, who cares? I'm most of the time by myself. But, so, and I allow, people to say, oh, I really like that. And I'll straight up tell them, oh, yeah, that's from here or here. And it's that kind of, I'm confident when I'm wearing that, I can still do my job. I can still do everything else, but still be who I am as a person and express that through clothing, even though I don't like customers or service.
Before I forget, Spencer, do you have any thoughts on how other people have, other than the whole you look older, but any other comments about dating from the people that you've gone out with or on Tinder or whatever?
Most of, when I'm actually like after I've gone on a couple dates or established, the menswear has never been the problem in my relationship. I think it probably.
Let's get some F's get some F's in the chat.
Yeah, I mean it's like I think it probably was maybe a little bit more difficult for me to initially matches, especially when I first joined Tinder when I was kind of in like.
But all the best pictures of you are wearing like bold '50s tweed jackets.
Yeah, and shit like that. Like I think if I went
or that Men's Warehouse photo that Ethan posted in Discord.
Yeah, I think if I
that was amazing.
I haven't been on any dating apps in like more than a year now. I think if I restarted my profile now with a bunch more recent photos, I wish I
taken by Ethan.
Wish it wasn't fucking lockdown. I wish I had I wish it wasn't lockdown, but at the same time,
I wish girls loved me.
Yeah.
Because
wait, lockdown should be no reason not to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. Also, again, Adam.
My point is, I have been losing weight over lockdown and am able to fit into a bunch of cool clothes, but I can't. I have to take the photos on my iPhone. There's no menswear events for me to get cool photos of me wearing clothes.
And Ethan isn't always there.
John's been thirst trapping me with his iPhone 5.
So pics coming up.
Oh yeah,
that's not true. Don't.
Well, honestly, I think that.
I think I did get a couple comments like from I think you want me to bring this one up. The girl said, like, just messaged me first and said you dress like an English professor or whatever.
Oh.
And then you said,
"People always be saying that."
I am an English.
Yeah, no, I told her it's like I'll have you know that like Japanese dudes love me on Instagram.
Yo, Japanese dudes.
That's a great one.
And it's like we never actually met up. I don't think the intention was ever to meet up. I think she just wanted to message me and tell me I looked like an English professor.
I have no experience with like online dating sites at all.
Yeah, but
it's very interesting the things that people just say on there. Like,
but no, I mean it's like the girls that I matched with. I don't think the way I dress mattered a whole lot. There was one girl who on our first date, we got coffee and we were walking through like the little downtown area, and we came into a thrift store. And I saw a blazer that I liked and tried it on and decided not to buy it. And then on our second date, I said, the place was, to be clear, very close to her house. I said, can you stop back in there? And if that blazer is still there, grab it from her.
So good.
And she was fine with it. So, that proves that was okay.
It doesn't matter.
I was gonna say, for me, a lot of my old dating pictures, maybe because I've dated like a girl for like a year, then I took, then we broke up for a year, then I got like another girlfriend like a year and a half later. So like the last time, maybe like 2 years ago, before my previous, my most recent ex, a lot of my pictures were just like my outfits from work, always taken in like the back alleyway.
Those are pretty good though.
They're good, but like when that's like your only thing, right? And it's all, especially when I'm at work, I tend to dress up a little bit more for work. You know, I'm wearing.
It goes back to what young Chomsky said about being fluent.
Exactly, but you know, I think that now, you know, and
not looking like you're pigeonholed into one look. Which happens to be a rather alien look, I think, to modern.
Well, yeah, because you're not a normal guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Weirdo.
Here's something that, you know, I think I've kind of said before on the stream is that, or at least maybe on one of the other ones, or even the podcast, but like I had so much anxiety over dating because I never knew what I wanted to exude as myself, right? Like a lot of my best pictures were me, you know, in the back alleyway wearing like a 3-piece suit or wearing a bow tie maybe or whatever, and then like my casual stuff is like really shitty pictures, you know, like on my phone.
I'm gonna wear a bow tie tomorrow,
and I mean it's fun, you know. But like, you know, it was this state of like, you know, I wasn't confident in myself, you know, and especially when you add in the fact that I would dress up differently on the date wearing like a crew neck t-shirt to kind of like, oh, see, look, I am a regular guy, but then I'm not because I still like doing this when I'm not on a date, right? It was all bad. I would swap out pictures so often. I would change my bio. I would change everything. I would sometimes take my Instagram off so people wouldn't see it. You know, I really... It caused a lot of anxiety, and I think over time I've kind of been able to mitigate that. Where now I don't really use dating apps right now because I'm taking a break, as some of you guys know. But the profile I had for that was like the same for like almost a year, and it was finally like what I wanted. Like it was like there was a picture of me doing the turtleneck base layer. There was a picture of me in an Aloha shirt, Chelsea boots at like the fair with Spencer. There's a picture of me with a turtleneck and my World War II jumpsuit holding Boba, which I think is one of the best pictures ever taken of me of all time.
World War II jumpsuit is the fucking tits.
It's so good.
Dude, it's crazy that you got it for like $80 because then we
I got it for.
No,
it was like 60.
It was like 80 for both of them or something, right?
Yeah, it was like 40. Yeah, it was a deal. It's a fucking deal.
So
because
fucking
those jumpsuits that we've seen elsewhere, they go for like way more than that.
At least 100. At least 100.
It's nuts.
But like, you know, it was an idea of like, okay, finally I'm able to show off what I like from menswear in a way that is accessible, in a way that is true to myself, but is still tangible for other people. You know, there's still a picture of me wearing a blazer. I might not be wearing a spear point collar and a tie, but I'm wearing a blazer, wearing like a sports shirt or whatever. You know, I'm wearing white socks and loafers, things that you would probably see me on a date, you know, or after work or something. And it's been great. And I think after I got to that stage, people have been like, you know, I like what you're wearing. I think you have great style, because at that point it was cohesive and people could latch on to it, as opposed to before where, you know, they might have a weird comment because, oh, why are you so dressed up? Because I felt too dressed up. I felt like I wasn't me. I felt like,
I feel like when you're in the pigeonhole of classic menswear, you become so fractured when it comes to being able to style and be able to dress, because you're in your head as such a they wouldn't wear this in whatever time period you're trying to mimic, you know, and it becomes so
of being like you don't wear tuxedos before 6 p.m, no brand in town, and all the rest of that nonsense.
Right, and I'm like, I wear a tuxedo all day because my whole life is an event, you know.
Right. And it's also the like
I'm the main character, right?
Well, right, but it's like semi-formal is traditionally supposed to be black tie, which, you know, just going by that and just twist your worldview, I suppose. Yeah. I feel like it affected me when I was younger. So it's semi-formal, so I can show up in a tuxedo in this. Or my attempt anyway.
Right, semi-formal means like a polo.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, New England semi-formal is a polo.
But I read it in this book, guys. Semi-formal means...
Oh, damn it.
Oh, Alan Flusser, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah. This book told me that this would make me look cool.
You know, something I did also want to bring about context is that, you know, and something that I'm surprised none of us brought up is, you know, seeing how the guys at the Armory, the guys at Drake's, or the guys at Jimmy's, or how they date. And something that I would have, if you guys did bring it up, my rebuttal for it would be like, you know, when you work in the industry, you're probably going to meet other women or other potential partners who are kind of in the know, but I think most of us here are into are into menswear or the fashion, but we don't work in it as close as these other guys. So of course we're gonna have a little bit more friction with regular people because our circles are just different.
Right.
But I mean, we didn't really get into that.
We don't know a lot about the significant others of these people you mentioned there. That's one.
Well,
thing.
I know. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, like Jim Parker, his fiance used to work at Drake's, and then she moved on to Barney's, I think.
Well, R.I.P.
Yeah, or something. Something like that. And like Chris Gums, one of the guys who works at Drake's. He dated someone who was like a textile. His wife. I guess his ex became his wife, but
okay.
He was dating a woman who worked in Japan for like the textiles for Drake's. It's like there's a lot of that happening when you're kind of in that world. Just like how presumably when you date someone, it's probably someone you work in close proximity with, right? Because as you get older, that's what your social circle becomes. But again, I think us as younger guys, especially now with COVID, you're not really working straight up in your office.
My mom calls it Corvid. I don't know where she got the R.
Right.
You're more prone to dating people that may not share your same industry, which is probably how. I mean, at least for me, that's what it's like.
But all just podcasters.
One thing I want to ask Spencer though, that's related to the game actually, is what the hell is the purpose of this game though? Because the past 2 hours,
you're supposed to carefully disassemble them. Yeah. No, you're supposed to carefully disassemble these part by part, but I got bored. I mean, the problem is it's like tough to find games where it's like I can like just kind of like idly play them and still like not be into it enough that I can be part of the conversation.
Yeah,
but I'm also just kind of bored of this. So
well, yeah, because I've just watched you systematically dismantle the space station over the course of 2 hours.
Say? I thought you were trying to ask Spencer a question about game.
The game.
Spencer, what's your game?
E-game.
I did want to say, I'll just, I think that you have a lot of these predilections and all these, these. You bring up some great topics. I'm curious.
Big words. He's got his fedoras out today, boys.
Have you been? What has your experience been? With people that you potentially like, even if you didn't, even if you haven't gone on like a lot of dates or whatever, like, have you noticed anything from potential partners or people that you're interested in regarding how you dress?
Right. Well, to that point, my experience has been quite similar to Spencer's actually, and that it really hasn't been the problem. I think
good.
The closest that it's ever been a factor in any way is that I was dating this girl once who would ask for advice. Actually, asked me. I helped her pick out a cocktail.
Girls ask that all the time. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the closest I've come to.
They ask me, and I give it to them, even if it's bad.
You just own it. You just own it.
They're like, what's your advice? I'm like, maybe combat boots.
That's just what you tell anybody you ask.
I took my ex.
It was more specific than that. It was about she was looking get into more like vintage or 30s-esque or styles. Although I think later I found out she was more. But later I kind of found out she meant 40s. But anyway, what
a dumb bitch.
Common mistake. Yeah. But yeah, it was in a very small way, sort of drawing on my knowledge of menswear and seeing if I could help her out there. And that's the only real time that's ever come up. As a topic. Otherwise, it's not really been a problem. But I think I've always been more safe than you guys in general in terms of the way I dress.
Safe? Like yeah. Explain what safe means.
I didn't take as many risks. My style hasn't varied so wildly. I never had the gentleman's gazette. I'm wearing a suit to the barbecue stage. I always thought that was.
You do own white tie though.
I do own white tie.
You're not wearing that. I mean, I get.
No, but I didn't wear that to the fucking bar.
Listen,
that's what I mean.
I'll just come to New York City. We're going to a strip club. You're wearing white tie. We're getting the boys together. We're going to a strip club in white tie.
White tie, yeah. No,
and a top hat.
And a top hat. I'm looking like the Monopoly man, throwing change.
Yeah. But yes, I've always been. I don't know. I've been more conventional, but I guess I've had my pitfalls. I think the biggest thing for me has been beyond clearly, and it's just been just the way I speak, and I think this accent naturally makes me seem.
Is sick.
But
yeah,
it, but
just
it,
imagine
but it,
going up to
it,
a girl
it
and being
naturally
like,
makes me
can
seem.
I have a morsel of poon, please? Like just go up. And say that.
No, it was interesting.
Can I have a crumb of
Don't say
coochie?
that.
Is it? Wait, is it like? Is it
One
hot
thing
to
never say
have,
that.
like a
from high
fucking
school,
like
though, is because
Dickensian orphan? That would
One thing I remember
Matt,
from high school though is because
more.
I came. One thing I remember from high school though is I went to high school here, and a teacher sent me as a runner to another class once. I went in and like spoke out in front of the class to pass on the message, and afterwards, two girls from that class at different times sat next to me at lunch to see what was up. So
Oh shit!
it has
That
worked
I was
its
eating
favors.
some
Yeah,
blood.
that's
But
the most
it
action you've ever done.
has its benefits, but also I think it's holding me back in the way in
Well-
a sense that it's a bit stiff. It's not. I would be cool if I was cockney.
Always be
I'm
stiff.
not. Yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine you
but
cockney, but
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah, right.
cool
And
British accent
one of-
to be what to
Cool
put it
British
out there.
accent.
You have the
One
cool
of
British
the,
accent.
well, here's something. Here's one of the last points I kind of wanted
But
to
yeah,
make.
that's beyond the point. To answer your question, to answer your original question, yeah, menswear's not really been a problem, not really been an issue. It's been a non-issue.
Good. And I guess so. That leads me to my last thing, which again can be the last 10 to 15 minutes of this, but is that do you think that because you're so you have command over your style? I know a lot of girls like to dress their partners, or partners like to dress their partners. Do you think that's kind of like a detriment now because they can't do that to you, or because you're resistant to it? Because I remember first
It
when I
depends
was
on their taste level, right?
My girlfriend, like Tamara, wants me to dress
Dressing
her.
guys.
It's
Literally.
so
Yeah,
for
I'm
me
trying
it's
to undress.
Well,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
it's counter to
What
your
about you
general
guys?
goals. You've got to.
but after the undressing is done,
Eventually,
we gotta go
That's
pick up
what
some
it is.
pizza.
This
So
kind of goes to some, it's probably like an outdated kind of notion about dressing, but kind of girls like it when a guy cleans up, right? In the sense, right, where maybe not in like the project sense.
I'm always
just
clean.
like,
You know what I'm saying?
but that's what I'm saying. So like,
fresh.
you don't. There's not. They don't have that sense of like, oh, I'm proud of him moment. At least in terms of the dressing part.
Do women really want that though? I mean, I'm
Well,
curious.
I think-
Is that
I-
the sort of character you like though? The person who like needs
I
the
think that's
validation
I
of
think
like
that
I
best thing-
fixed you. That sort
They
of thing.
fixed you, or it's
Well, I
like, do
was
you really
gonna
want to
say-
date someone who's a piece of garbage that you have to dress up?
It sounds
Like,
like
they
the
can't get
beginnings of a
dressed without,
toxic
like,
relationship even.
Granimals.
Well, okay, so here's what my response. If I'm going to answer my question, you guys can fill in afterward. Is that when I was first dating my first ex-girlfriend Fran, she would say that we should dress like those cool Japanese couples or those Korean couples or Chinese couples who are very flowy and they match, right? Or they have similar aesthetics, right? And at the moment I was like, fuck no, I'm gonna dress the way I want. I'm not gonna I didn't say it like that, but I'm not gonna dress up. I'm not gonna get out of my J. Crew suit and my Spear Point collar. I'm not gonna put on a uniform because I hate uniforms, But and I feel like
but you were in a uniform.
yeah, and it's I think it's even if it's not like Ethan dressing up, she obviously wanted to kind of be involved in these kind of decisions, right? I think that's kind of what it is to kind of see if I could maybe take criticism or even or try something new. I think is kind of a thing. But as we try on later on, I feel like these those little changes come in different ways. Like I think I grew my beard, even though I didn't do that before because of my ex-girlfriend. And then now, people who go on dates with me now can see kind of the more indieization, the more like kind of dressed down versions of my style. So it kind of does come as a surprise when I do try something new. Like, oh, look, I'm proud of him for not wearing a tie this day, but I'm still okay with it. Like I'm okay with not wearing a tie. Like when I wore my for Spencer's Labor Day thing, I wore an 80s t-shirt with my swimming trunks, although now it makes me want to get Patagonia baggies, so that might be coming at some point. But even though I wore that, it's still kind of different, and in my head it's still cohesive with what I wore, but a lot of people are like, oh, that's really cool that you did that because it's still different and it kind of provides like a new avenue. So, I think it's a little, as I rephrase the question, I think it's a little bit less of, oh, I don't get to dress him up. But I think it's more like, can I see him try something new and experiment, that they can kind of latch onto. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? The whole, when a girl tries to give suggestions.
Dude, I tell them to fuck off.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck
like that's the thing that I'm into. Don't try to I don't know.
And that turns them on like nothing.
Don't try to change it, because I feel like then you're trying to change me.
I am who I am. What do you want me to do?
Have a girl to
Change?
give me suggestions.
Oof.
F's in the chat.
What about
F's in the chat? Yeah.
young Chomsky? What do you have? Because I know you get DMs from maybe not people that you're dating, but you do. Yeah. But what about now? Do you think that does she have some strong opinions, or even try and give suggestions here and there?
First of all, I get a lot of fucking weird DMs. That's another show. All right, that's a different conversation. No, I mean, this one I'm seeing now, I think we kind of relate on style. We send each other Instagram stuff. I'm like, hey, check out this post from Ethan, and she's like, oh yeah, that's great. But one thing that's sort of tangential, but that comes to mind in your conversation, and I guess this connects to what we were talking about earlier, is I think there is a really strong kind of cultural expectation for in a couple, in a hetero couple, right? That the woman is going to be the pretty one, and the fashionable one, right? Like women are supposed to have those interests, and so then if you as a man have more of an interest in fashion, or somehow are like more eye-catching than the woman, your potential partner and even other people might see that as kind of odd, and that can be an issue. Like I've had people say things to me, like women that it didn't work out, but like we went on one date maybe, and they were like, literally have said that it's weird to feel like I'm not the pretty one or something.
Is it a problem of possible vanity as well? It's a sign of a problematic level of vanity, possibly.
Well, I'm not going to knock anybody else for being vain, because that would be pot in the kettle. But
all right,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I do think it's a real thing. It's a real thing. There's a lot of the whole thing smacks of gender, right? But like. Yeah. It's not something that any person made up. Like this is kind of exists in the culture. So I do think, as far as how you dress in relation to your partner, that is an issue for some people. Now I think it's also easy for me to say, well, if I am like, that just means I'm not on the same page. I don't want to dress or date somebody who feels plain or ugly standing next to me, because I probably feel the same way about her, and it's just not going to work out. But I do think that is a cultural attitude that we have to grapple
for
with.
Sure.
It's the vestiges of long-standing gender norms, right? But
it's still with us. I don't know. I mean, vestiges implies almost that it's like it's gone away, but I think it's very much even.
What it pushes? It's the popular thing to do, is to push towards the shattering and the reconstruction of gender norms in a way. Maybe we're still very far away from that, but
but I think there are a lot of people, in my experience. As somebody who
strong.
is,
it's still strong, but as a sense that we'd like it to go away, but it's deep. It's endemic.
Yeah, well, I think it really depends on your crowd, right? Because I know a lot of people who are, their politics means, let's say we want to destroy gender, but I also know people who are very, they are leftists. They believe in making a more equitable world, but that doesn't to them mean that they have a problem with gender roles. Like I don't, in the sense that I am comfortable identifying as a man and with masculinity in certain ways, but I'm not somebody who says like I want to be non-binary because I think the gender binary is inherently bad. I think this is getting into a much deeper topic, but I do think saying like the popular thing is to like abolish gender. I think that is popular with some people, but there are certainly progressives and leftists and socialists and such that I know who don't feel that way. But it is, in the wider world, again, it's a thing that exists whether we want it to or not.
Right.
Yeah, and I hope I didn't give you an impression that I was painting with a very broad brush here and saying that.
No, what you said makes sense. I just wanted to add some caveats.
Yeah.
Well, I was on that subject of the gender and expression, everything. I think that's one. As I look at who I date now, or who matches with me, even, is that I tend to attract people who are queer, and who have a looser definition of gender and gender expression that kind of makes sense, where they kind of say, okay, well, the vanity, even if it's traditionally the women's thing, if you want to call it that, they don't believe in that. I think they think it's fine if a guy dresses well, or has good skin, or wears makeup or whatever, which again kind of leads into the fact, like, now I attract the people who kind of see it the same way, who, again, I think there's a lot in the common with wearing ripped jeans, white socks, and Doc Martens to me when I wear my raw hem jeans, white socks, and black loafers, and they're able to kind of see that kind of same thing. And with suggestions, I think it goes the same way too, where we're like, we can look at like a girl wearing, menswear, or a guy wearing a kind of flowy pant, and be like, these are both sick, and I think that kind of helps the conversation, because again, if we look at like my most recent ex, like I said, she was kind of insecure of the fact that I dressed up a lot, and maybe I don't want to put words in her mouth, but maybe it's because she wasn't used to dating a guy who put that much effort into what he wore every day. Even if it's not effort in my eyes, clearly wearing a tie is more than the guy she dated in the past.
And this reminds me of something that was brought up in a different stream, actually, which is it's very difficult to predict what quote unquote normies think and how they perceive our stuff, because I think
girls are normies.
Yeah, or any. Whatever, fine. You want to cancel me on this one, guys?
Yes.
All girls are normies.
Straight
outrageous. Right. Yeah, F's in the chat for me. But yeah, it's hard to it's hard to predict how people view what we're doing, because we're so in our bubble, and the amount of knowledge we have with regards to clothing is such that we really can't predict that. And this was in the early stream when we were talking about how it was like details. I think how people don't see details, and I brought up the idea of I don't even think it's a matter of you're wearing a tweed suit is more casual. No, they don't see the tweed suit, they just see the color. Like, you can be wearing a tweed suit, but if it's blue, they'll think it's formal, and if it's
exactly.
Yeah.
And to add on to that,
it's very, but this is beyond the point. It's very difficult to predict how people are, what messages people are receiving from our clothing who aren't in our field. I think it's quite possible that what we think they're thinking is totally different from, and totally what they're actually thinking is totally inconceivable to us because of our biases.
Women don't care enough about menswear as we'd like them to. Like, we as men, we care about these little details, like the hand rolling on our pocket handkerchiefs, or handmade buttonholes, or horn buttons on our tweed jackets. But like, women don't see that. They don't see those nuanced details.
I can't just say, you can't just say it's like, it's just, women who don't appreciate.
Oh yeah,
they laugh people in their eyeballs.
Exactly.
They physically
can't see
cones. They just can't.
But it's
just like anyone who's not into classic menswear. And again, I don't think it's like, you can't blame people for that. I've always
I don't blame people.
I can't.
I just think that's the state of the way things are.
I mean, I will say that's kind of the. It's not untrue, but I think it's because the details that we have are always different. Like, we can figure out what an A-line skirt versus a poodle skirt. I don't know.
Think about menswear in terms of like other hobbies. It's like like a model train guy. Like the difference between difference. I don't even know enough about trains to come up with a hypothetical situation.
Yeah, like my girlfriend.
The thing I wanted to narrow on but the thing I want to narrow down within this run we're talking about how people don't understand is the way they don't understand is not something we can predict. In my experience, I thought that people had this perception of this thing I was wearing, but actually the perception they had was not only completely different from what I thought it was. I could not have conceived of it. Actually, it was so strange. And the specific example was the suit's brand. So it cannot possibly be formal, even if it's like a straight walk. Like, I would never thought of that.
I think it always just kind of comes back to if people know it, they'll know it, and they'll know when they see it.
Yeah,
you know?
and so to apply it to this, though, I think it's a trap to fall into the idea of saying, oh, we should wear this sort of thing more to appear more casual, because we don't know what casual is. Our idea of what casual is might be completely different from what people actually see as casual.
Being casual means to be sloppy.
At the end of the day, life is very nuanced.
I feel like I have a decent enough understanding of game fashion that while my opinions of what are look good are different, I can
I would even go further to say I think we have a better idea of what's cool for the moment. I think that's what it comes down to, because I think, again, I've gone on like a picnic date wearing wearing suede tassel loafers and a spear point collar, and I feel like I was okay there, But I also know that if I wore like a cool, sawtooth Westerner with like a fucking leather jacket and Chelsea boots, I feel like that might have been cooler, for that situation and everything.
Also, might have been awful. It's quite possible that there's a read of that where you look like a sleazy 70s dude or something. I don't know.
But sometimes that's even cooler than the guy wearing the houndstooth. Sometimes,
I think that's cool, but
So I just want to throw in that. I think that when we were talking about people, anybody who's not into menswear or whatever wouldn't notice this detail or that detail. I think obviously that's true, but at the same time, I think a lot of times they're still perceiving these things, and they might be on some kind of, I don't know if I want to say subconscious level, but just because they don't know the terminology or they couldn't like talk about it the way we can, doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact. I liken it to music. Like, I've studied music formally, and I know a lot about music that the average person doesn't, but everybody listens to music. And so people get the emotion, and you respond to a piece of music in a certain way without any kind of education. So I can say like, oh, these people, they don't know the difference between a dominant chord and a subdominant chord, but like they're still hearing the same piece. They might not be able to perceive it as clearly or analyze it, but like, so I think that's kind of the analogy of it.
Vocabulary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, even within my own.
Go ahead, Jason.
Even in my own experience, obviously, like, my girlfriend works in bridal. Like, I don't know the differences between, certain dresses, but I can tell that, I can understand that there are differences, nuances, and that I can say why I think this one's better, because of whatever, even though I may not know the actual terminology. I may not know, oh, it's because of this princess seam or this applique or this kind of tool. I may not know those exact things. But I can tell that one is objectively better than the other. One is, just has a better hand to it. But even if I don't know why, I think women can perceive that too.
What's objectively better? It's like you like what you like, and that's how most people are.
Exactly.
It's like I like that or I don't like it.
But don't you think the ability to do that, Jason, might be an after effects of the skills you picked up in menswear, giving you a bit more insight than someone who was fresh.
I mean, totally for sure. I mean, I live in a bubble. I was.
Yeah.
I definitely understand that, but I think other people could pick up. I mean, look at the women buying wedding dresses. They don't know any of this, right? But they can. They know what they want. They know what they like. But they don't. They don't get any of it. Or like when Dave and I meet with people to make the made to measure suits. It's like, they don't understand why they like this button, I'm like, oh, well, that's a horn button or it's mother of pearl. But like, oh, well, I just like the way it looks, the way it feels. Like, yeah, okay, it doesn't matter.
It sounded makes me kill someone.
Whoa.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter the terminology or if they know why they like it. They just do, and it's that overwhelm. It's in that emotional response to that they can feel whether or not they know any of it.
Right.
I mean, all the stuff that you apply to any kind of hobby that you're into. Because I mean, I'm sure that
like train sets.
If there's a film pro podcast out there, I'm sure that some of these guys wonder, like, oh, is me being into watching Fincher films or Godard films being too much for these girls?
Yes, it is. It's too much for everybody.
And the answer is almost always yes, because it's all about context and how often you talk about it. And it's like,
talk about it too much.
With young Tom's talking about music. I think that if I think about what really might be unattractive to women, it might be for me. If I start talking about why Hans Zimmer is a detriment to the film score industry, I feel like girls may turn themselves off to that more. Faster than
then you could turn them off.
They might find that way more unattractive than me talking about like why a soft shoulder is cool.
Yeah,
you should speak your truth, King. You should go at Hans Zimmer.
Speak your truth, King. Yeah,
I've like responded to like Lauren Bell. It's a different stream. It'll be fine. It's indifferent. But well, we lost MJ.
Those women will appreciate your passion.
And the funny thing is that when they do know it, it's cool. Like Hallway Ninja did, like when I did some cool modal mixing when I did a composition. So shout out Hallway Ninja.
Should mix, but that's probably I don't want to get political.